What's up everyone, Arctic here, bringing you guys another overview of Gears of War Judgment. As you guys know, I was out at Epic Games Studio this past week, and I was one of 10 people that was able to playtest Judgment a little bit early. Now, I gave you guys my overview of the whole experience, my recap. Now, this is a little bit more granular. I'm going to be talking about OverRun specifically. Now, I was going to do this video on this commentary meshing OverRun and free-for-all together and telling you guys about those, since those are two things I can talk about right now. But I've decided that I'm just going to talk about OverRun. I have some notes from the whole event, but my OverRun notes are just like daunting compared to free-for-all. So it's like this needs a completely separate video. And if you guys saw me on Twitter the other day, I was just trying to relay like how much of a game changer OverRun is in a console multiplayer shooter experience, if you will. It's not, I don't know, it's hard to put it into the shooter category because it just doesn't feel like it based off of, you know, the characters and things that you can do. But, you know, I said this and I firmly believe it, and I can't wait till I get to play more OverRun. But for me, OverRun was one of the most original and unique multiplayer console, let me specify this, console multiplayer experiences I have ever played, like ever. It could literally be boxed up as its own separate game and they could sell that. Now, there's a few things, and I'm gonna go into the overarching message with this. I feel like it's almost too complicated, I guess, for console gamers. I don't want to sound like I think that we can't handle it, but it just feels like it needs to be on the PC. You know, and I said that in one of our design meetings that we had with Epic. You know, I just feel like for a shooter experience, most people on consoles just want to point, click, shoot, or whatever, and this just doesn't offer this. And after I kind of go over I guess why this interested me so much, you kind of get why I'm like, okay, this is a little too much for console guys. And you know, maybe you guys will prove me wrong. Maybe you guys will absolutely love it. Maybe guys will be in games just chatting it up, communicating like crazy. But that's just not been my experience so far on Xbox Live or PS3 or really any game. Nobody's really communicating on that level unless they're playing in a team. So this kind of goes into some of the potential that the mode has to offer. Now, why is OverRun a game changer for me? All right, so first off, the pace. Now, I played Horde mode, I played Beast mode, and they're both a walk in the park, like easy mode all day. So when I went into Epic and you know, I sat down and played after playing a little bit of free for all, and Barbosa. Jason, he was also one of the guys that went out to the playtest at Epic. He actually said that the free-for-all and the multiplayer, you know, experience for him during free-for-all was just like kind of stressful, right? Like there's a lot of stuff going on. You have to react really fast. And he's not a fan of deathmatch. So his experience was like crazy fast and it was like too much going on. He didn't know how to quite react. With people like all over the place gunning him down from every angle. So he gets into OverRun. He absolutely loves it, right? I get into OverRun after, you know, free for all is like, whatever. It's Gears. It's, you know, it's standard Gears. I'm kind of used to that. I get into OverRun and it's just like the same type of thing that Jason was talking about for free for all, and that's how I felt in OverRun. It was just really fast. I had to react. I had to listen to what my teammates were saying. If I didn't, we lost the point. It was just crazy action going on. So the pace of OverRun is extremely fast, and it changes dynamically throughout the game. So, you know, you're on defense, you're reacting to tickers at the beginning, and then, you know, they build up enough points, and the next thing you know, there's a corpse on the map. Oh, you know, oh shit, how do I deal with the corpse? Oh, no, they just brought in a mauler. Now it's like I have to change up what my guys are doing. If someone's not listening to what I'm saying, then, you know, we're screwed. And that was the pace. It was like crazy reaction. It's like, oh, you need to be doing this, guy. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. Hey, teammate, what are you doing? This guy is more important than what you're dealing with over there. And they're like, no. This guy is more important than what you're doing over there. So it's like Everyone had to be on the same page. Everyone had to be communicating. And this is just defense, right? So that whole pace and experience was just like mind blowing to me. I was like, oh man, this is like some high level stuff. So, that whole thing really like blew me away. All right. So I kind of talked on the pace, strategy, communication. Like there isn't a game on console that requires more strategy and communication right now. Shooter wise, nothing. There is literally nothing. Do you guys hear the conviction in my voice? There is nothing that offers the same type of strategy and communication that OverRun has to offer. Bar none. There's nothing. Search and destroy, blown away. Gears of War execution, blown away. Halo, team deathmatch, capture the flag, blown away. There are no heroes. Like one guy can't go off and then you guys win a match because this guy is slaying everybody on the map. That doesn't happen. Everybody has to be working together. And if someone is on the wrong page at the wrong time, that can mean that you lose the match because this guy wasn't listening to this guy and didn't do the right thing at the right time to make their offensive push not work. So strategy and communication are like hands down, like crazy. All right. And then you have 2 lanes to worry about, right? So think about, League of Legends or Dota or something like that. There's 3 lanes. Well, I can only imagine how it would be with 3 lanes on this, but the fact that you're, trying to cover 2 sides means that there's 2 different, types of strategies that the other team could be working on offense and defense. You have to kind of worry about the same thing. So, the maps that we played, island, rooftops, those are the ones that you guys know, were really like very different. So it was like, one thing that worked on one map for a lane is definitely not going to work on the other map. It was just very different. So the strategy involved with that was just, again, on another level. And then I mentioned how much communication plays a part. So the team oriented aspect of this, game mode is just, it's intense, right? So obviously with the classes, and I'm just speaking on defense right now, the classes and the decisions that you make going into the game, they could change throughout each, point that you're defending. But, you don't know if you should go 2 engineers, 2 soldiers, and a medic or a scout or whatever, because you don't know what they're going to bring at you, right? So, that whole aspect of it was, it's just, like I said, it's just crazy the level of detail you have to have with your team going into a match. So talking on some of the characters, since I kind of brought that up, if you guys don't know, there's a sniper, engineer, soldier, and a medic on the COG side. I'll get to the locust here in a bit, but, I played with all of them. And if you are familiar with some of the OverRun videos, the sniper is kind of like a scout, has a, scout grenade. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. That basically, tags enemy players, the locust, and it also offers a debuff to them. So the reason that there's a debuff is because some of the locust characters, like the Mauler, for example, aren't on the same health scale. So, killing them if you didn't have a debuff would be very tough. We found that out the hard way, when some of the other playtesters decided to use corpsers, and, our first reaction to that, we didn't know how to deal with it, and they were wrecking shop in the beginning. And then once we figured out, okay, scouts are kind of good mid-game because that's when corpsers are coming out, we'd have 1 guy or 2 guys switch to a scout, throw out that grenade, and then it would debuff the Scorpsers because they're digging underground and then they pop up all of a sudden. So you have to be ready for that, right? You have to be able to react to it. So that was really interesting to see how that dynamic with the sniper kind of played throughout the playtest. Because at first no one was kind of using it and it was like, I don't really know quite how to use this character. And then later, towards the 3rd, 4th day that we got to play, you were seeing people kind of pick up on it. All right, so then there's the engineer. Engineer can set down a turret, it can repair fortifications, and they have the Nasher. Now, based off of what I saw, it's pretty difficult to get Nasher kills because you don't know what is going to be coming at you. And you kind of want to put down, or you kind of want to be in a position to get a kill with the Nasher unless you have to go out and actively kill a Cantus, for example, which heals the other team, and they die pretty easily to Nasher shots. But, they can set down turrets. Turrets are very, very good in the game, but you have to be in the right position in order to set it down. You could also set them down on top of different areas of the plane. So like if you saw perhaps like a block of cover in front of you, you could actually set down the turret right on that block, so it can get a height advantage and kind of shoot down in certain places. So it was really interesting to see some of the areas you could set down the turrets and where they were most effective. I obviously did not play long enough to figure out the best spots, but they definitely offer quite a bit with defensive strategy and positioning and whatnot, with what you could do with the turrets. Now, the other thing is repairing fortifications. This is an example of some of the feedback I gave. I felt like you had to get really close to repair certain fortifications, and there's so much action coming at you. You have grenades being thrown on them, tickers blowing up, and it felt like I had to get too close to repair a fortification, for example. So, what I said was, hey, maybe the distance on that should be a little bit further. But then what I found out, and we didn't actually have a medic on our team, but Barbosa was like, hey, why don't you try throwing that repair on a fortification with my medic? And I'm like, okay, well, I'll try it then. It was a lot easier with the medic, but that was just some of the back and forth conversation that we had in the design meetings. Was like, hey, I think this doesn't work here. Weapons feedback and stuff like that. Placement of things. That's the general type of feedback we were going over. I'll talk about that probably some more in the free-for-all video, but that's pretty much it for the engineer. Now, the soldier I consider to be like the offensive character, so to speak, just because, in the videos we've seen, he's had a boom shot. We don't know what it's going to be in the final release of the game, but they seem to have the most firepower. They also threw down ammo for your teammates. So there was a lot of calls where, you were fighting maybe like two guys on the other side, and you're like, I need ammo. And then your soldier's on the other side of the map, trying to cover a different lane. And it's like, well, all right. So he throws it down in the middle. So you have to hope that you stay alive, run to the middle, grab your ammo, come back. So again, that communication has to be there. You have to be like, okay, I need this at this point. Hey, can you throw me some ammo? If not, I'm going to die. We're going to lose this lane. So everybody was like on their toes the whole time. The secondary for the soldier is the Lancer, which I guess the Lancer was kind of effective, but once you got to the Meteor guys, the Meteor Locust, it was pretty hard to, take them out effectively. And the last for the Cog was the Medic. They can revive teammates, provide health. Basically, like I said, if I was on a fortification and a medic threw down some healing for me, it was easier for me to heal a specific area when I was repairing. In my opinion, I didn't really find the medic too useful, but again, I wasn't Barbosa. I wasn't Jason. He was praising the medic. So, that was just some type of the dynamic discussion that was going on. I didn't find it overly useful, but again, we didn't have a medic on our team. From a strategical standpoint, it seemed like it wasn't in our best interest a lot of the times on the teams that I was on to use a medic. But again, Jason hopped on our team. He was super effective with it. So, it was just back and forth a lot, and having different players and different roles really changed how things went. Now, that's all the Cog. On the Locust side, it was I felt like I was just learning a lot as I played, and each time I played, I learned something different. So the Locusts have the tickers, and if you're familiar with beast mode, tickers are really good at breaking fortifications. They explode. They can actually eat grenades. So like you can have your grenadier feed your ticker some grenades and then run up and have a bigger explosion. They can also be punted, so you could like knock a ticker up in the air and he'd fly into the enemy base and maybe cause an explosion and kill some people, cause some damage. But they're really good opening around. So we found the most success like that beginning stage when you need to break down fortifications really quickly. And they kind of die down a little bit towards the end of the round, because by that time you start seeing some of the big guns come out. So, and that was my experience with the tickers. I used them quite a bit. The next is the Wretch. I consider that like a harass class. They were really good at countering snipers because they could get up to high points in the map, and they also stun enemies. They could also wall bounce, which I thought was really weird. I'm in a game and I have a wretch, and Quinn walks behind me. He's like, "You know the wretch can wall bounce," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, go ahead." So I'm sitting there trying to wall bounce, and there's like this little like monkey looking thing trying to wall bounce, and it's just awkward, very, very awkward. But the stun and the melee, which is pretty strong in the wretch, offers quite a bit of variety. I thought the best wretch there was probably Nexi. He said he felt like that was something that he could really get into, that particular Locust character. It could also jump over fortifications. So that's one of the other abilities that it had. And then you have the Grenadier, pretty standard, can throw grenades, has a Nasher, believe has a Lancer. Just offered standard play. They really worked well with the Cantus. I played a lot of Cantus, which is the healer. They also had a Hammer Burst, and if you got multiple Cantus characters together, they could chain heal, which was really interesting. So for one example of gameplay, we had a Corpser, and it was like, I think it was maybe the second defending point that the Cog needed to defend. So we got like 3 Cantus healers, and we had 1 Corpser, and we were like chain healing each other and chain healing the Corpser and trying to make this huge push. But when you're healing, you can't attack. So we actually had one of their players hop up on this high ledge, fall down behind us, shotgunned all of the Cantus people, ruined our push. But we got pretty far with it, but it was just like, oh man, we didn't have anybody watching our back. But the push was really interesting. So that was one of the, I guess, crazy rushes that we did out of nowhere. Now, then you have the ones that you can purchase in game after you kind of earn them. Essentially your champions. That's what Ocelot used in his video, which is pretty accurate. I have a blood mount. I didn't really find those to be too useful, just to be honest. I didn't really like the blood mount. The issue with it is that you're counting on whoever picks the blood mount to ride. If you decide to hop on them, you essentially become one target. But you have to hope that they have some good driving skills. Because and I use this as an example in the meeting. Like, that guy when you're playing Capture the Flag on Halo, that's like the awful Warthog driver. Like, you don't want to hop into, you'd rather run across the map instead of getting into the Warthog with the bad driver. And that's kind of how I felt with the blood mount. Like, that's just me. So they did do pretty good by themselves. They had some pretty good melee damage. They were kind of chunky, kind of like a tank, so they could take some damage. But I just didn't find them to be overly useful. Then after that, you have the Corpser, which was probably the fan favorite at the playtest. They have some pretty intense melee damage. The big thing with them is that they could burrow underground. So when they pop up, unless there was a scout on the other team, they seemed like they really wrecked shop. You had to really focus your attention on them. And there was a couple times when, there'd be 3 Corpsers and you're SOL. You can't deal with all of them without a scout. So even if there was only 1 scout, it felt like sometimes we needed 2. And if you didn't have them, it was rough. Then you had the Mauler. I didn't get a whole lot of time with the Mauler, but it does have some really cool abilities. You can spin the shield, which also reflects bullets back onto the enemy team. You could also swing and smash down your Morning Star, I think is what it's called. So it kind of did like a little AoE. It was pretty painful. If you were in the way, you'd be dead. The spinning shield also killed people, by the way. And then it could sprint, surprisingly, and it was kind of like a big, huge shield. So like once you are in a position to start moving forward, if you have a couple guys behind you, or maybe a healer behind you, a Cantus, you can kind of make some really slow, progressive pushes with the Mauler. Last but not least is the Serapede. I did have a couple games where I went off with the Serapede. Seems like it's like a high-level harass character. Didn't seem like it did too much damage. There was a special ability where it like gets up like a cobra, like that attack stance, and it like spits this green stuff, at the enemy. It was interesting. You know, it's really hard to take down. It does like some pretty good melee damage, but the mobility of it, you know, playing like a little long centipede thingy is different. So, you know, that was kind of hard to adjust to, and that's just part of playing the game. You need to play it a little bit more in order to, you know, kind of get a feel for how all of the different characters move around and how they interact with it. But like I said, OverRun, a complete game changer. I can't talk highly enough about this game mode. I swear Epic could box this up as a separate product and sell it, because it is really that good. Again, my major concerns are that I think it's perhaps a little too complicated for the console community. Just from based off of what I've seen so far, it involves a lot of strategy, a lot of communicating, and unless you're rolling, you know, huge parties, you're not going to have that too often on, you know, Xbox or consoles. It's prevalent everywhere, but, you know, I just don't know if this is a console game mode. I feel like it's a PC game mode. If you guys watch League of Legends or Dota, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But if the communication isn't there, it's going to fall apart real quick, and you're going to get a lot of pub stomping is what I think would happen in that. So I hope they are really thinking about matchmaking for that, and the prospect of solo players going in there and trying to have fun and trying to enjoy themselves, because it could get really bad otherwise. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A little long, a lot of OverRun stuff. If you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them. And until the next time, guys, I will catch you later. Peace.